Thanks everybody for coming. So this is I actually prepared the slides just yesterday night only. I just went with the vibe, like pun intended. So I think we can go on just straight to the first slide first. So a bit more about me first. I think a lot of times, right, when a lot of people are sharing certain stuff, right, it's always important to actually know the context and the background of the person. Some of the vibe coders, they could be just salespeople, just teaching vibe coding. They want to sell certain stuff. Some of them could be very professional developers, and then they say vibe coding is very good, but they have like 10 years of programming experience. So it's very different context, right? So a bit more about me. I have an econs degree and a master's from NUS from way back. So I'm actually a data analyst. So I kind of know coding, at least conceptually, but I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I know this thing called Python. It's a snake language. I can automate stuff. I do more data. I tell people I'm like the connector between the engineers and the business people because for some reason they don't have to talk to each other. So I'm the person in the middle to connect them. Yeah, in that sense. Yeah. So I have a bit more experience. So I worked in government agencies, research institutions, tech companies. Interestingly, I was a freelancer. Only just last year, I was a freelancer for about 3 years. So I did a lot of random stuff. So as a freelancer, I did try to do more programming kind of stuff. Like really the hardcore engineering, front end, back end, things that I will share a bit more later. But not right now, I'm back in this company called Tech in Asia, doing data again, more of like leading a very small team, and then getting them to figure out like our data stuff generally. Okay, so the person that was supposed to click is away, so I'll go and click. Okay, so I think one interesting thing about vibe coding, right, is that I always want to remind people, right, like I think modern day nowadays, a lot of things can be very hyped up very fast. But actually, you take a step back, right? And okay, I didn't really go and calculate when it was. But if I remember correctly, I think vibe coding definitely only came out in like 2025. If anybody watching this in 2030, yeah, in only like these few months ago only. So it seems like everybody is going like to the vibe coding, right? But actually, it's a very new thing. So actually, again, I'm a data person. So I actually do try my best to follow a lot of tech people just to understand how do people look at like tech. And actually, I saw this YouTube. It's quite interesting. This YouTuber is called Teo, I think. I can't remember. I'll just look at his videos. So he was actually sharing this very interesting idea about like, and this one I will actually share what was the content that got him to do this video. I have the link there. I will share the slides as well after my sharing. So I felt that these 4 points were actually quite interesting. When he's talking about like before even thinking about is vibe coding pointless, like what is vibe coding? So I think, okay, I'll be looking at it from here, right? He actually listed these 4 points here, doing most of the work via plain English. And I think that's like the dream of a lot of non-technical people, right? I can just use whatever language, English, Chinese, whatever language that I know. I can produce something that is very sophisticated, very posh, very polished. I can sell. And then like people just gonna pay money because I wrote some English prompt. So that's one of the ways people see vibe coding. The other one, I think A and B is kind of similar in that sense. Whereas like C and D, right, is the more technical aspects. And I think a lot of times, right, when you see a lot of content, people say vibe coding, right, I would say that there's usually a bit of positioning, either A and B or C or D. So C and D, right, is more for like developers, programmers who actually already know programming, like they really can code it themselves, but maybe they will take like a week to build up their whole website. But because using Gen AI and all this like LM and all this sort of stuff that I'll explain a bit more later, they're able to actually do things faster. And in that sense, I would say, I was looking at some of the comments that people, like that y'all wrote in the WhatsApp, right? The messages and stuff, right? I realized that, wow, actually, some of y'all are actually quite advanced already as well. But again, I think I'll just try to make it a bit more broad-based for today's sharing session. So yeah, so this is kind of the framework that I want people to remember. Usually these two groups is either people who are non-technical, wanting to produce a technical solution, or the more technical people who want to enhance their work and try to be more productive. Okay. He left me, it's so sad. Okay, so a few more keywords. I wouldn't want to call them buzzwords, but I would say, I guess people here are more generally like into this vibe coding thing, right? So I might use some of these things loosely here and there, but Gen AI, it just means generative AI. If you're talking about theory of AI, right, there's a lot more branches of AI. Generative AI is just a kind of artificial intelligence, right? That's able to produce a lot of stuff. So I think my sharing today is more towards producing text, because producing code actually is kind of some kind of text. Just that this text is more for like computers to kind of understand. But when you're looking at Gen AI, right, there's also like image creation. I think just now one of y'all was sharing about the nano banana thingy. So image creation, speech creation, translation. So all these actually fall under the broad category of generative AI. So you're taking inputs and you're producing outputs. So naturally, right, a lot of all this, right, is actually built on this technology called LLMs, large language models. So I won't go into the math because, not because I don't want to bore you all, it's because I don't know about all the math. But the general idea is that, like, yeah, you have a lot of things, you kind of have a lot of text, and then you're using some probability to calculate based on what I have right now, there's an input, what should I produce out? So basically, it's just some probability calculations. That's as much as I know. Yeah. But I think the more interesting thing is actually the next two words called tokens and hallucinations, especially hallucinations. But I'll talk about tokens first. So general idea of tokens, right, is actually kind of like the bits and pieces of information that is either being fed into this algorithm or the bits and pieces that are being produced out. To be a bit more technical, right, some people might think, because we are still in the English-speaking context, right? So actually a lot of times, right, if you think about it, right, there are people who are actually using traditional Chinese. So it's like, wow, computers so smart, they can like read Chinese words. So a lot of times, right, there's a bit more that goes into how they break down all this information. And these are called tokens. Okay, again, I won't go too deep into it not because I don't want to bore you all, because I don't know how to bore you all with this. I don't know about the full math behind it. Yeah, but you can think of it as there's input tokens and output tokens. Yeah. Then the last bit, which is the one that is a bit more important, and I think this is the thing that people will say, vibe coding is useless because there's all these kind of bad stuff, which is hallucinations. So again, right, the idea is that a lot of all this input-output stuff, right, it's actually based on the probability. So when you talk about probabilities, right, there's always some room for error because maybe certain words are very similar, or maybe the calculations, you don't have enough data in your original training model to kind of give the context for the existing context that you're giving into the model right now. Yeah, so hallucination is something that is a bit tricky, especially tricky when you're looking at coding situations, which we are focusing today, because coding is usually very black and white. It's like, I have this thing, I want to key in certain information to produce certain calculations. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Yeah, of course, when you're looking at certain contexts, right, things like maybe the style of your writing. I am in, I know of certain organizations that are working at things like style when you're writing journalism and whatever, right? You have to kind of perform, write your content in a certain way. So they are actually, so hallucinations is more of more towards the style in that sense. So yeah, again, depending on your use case, hallucinations may or may not be something that's very, very important. Yeah. Okay, next slide. You're back already, good. Okay. So yeah, I forgot to put the slide that says the computer concepts, but I'll be going in a bit more into some of the more technical terms that I think is important for us to understand. So the next few slides, right, I'm focusing more on the more general concepts. So it might be boring for people who know computer science really, but I think these are interesting concepts because when you're thinking about using Gen AI or vibe coding to kind of produce solutions, right, you actually will kind of fall into these few brackets. He's gone again. Okay, go and click. Okay, wait, sorry, I forgot. Okay, so the first concept, right, I'd like to share is this thing called front end. The general idea, right, is called front end, right, is because it's basically most of the time, if you're talking about producing a solution, it is the thing that people would see and interact with. So very commonly, you can think about website. The few things is basically websites and mobile apps. Yeah. So my understanding and experience, right now, right, it's still easier to use vibe coding to do websites. I think it's just because there's just more website, kind of like HTML content online. Yeah. So again, the idea, right, is that all these models, right, they're not like magic. They're just training on all the online data that's available. So if you're looking at building websites, usually vibe coding is easier. You have an easier experience using vibe coding tools. Yeah. I have the links here. I won't go too deep into them, but these are some of the things that when I share the slides, you all can just come and take a look. So far, my experience is that a lot of the vibe coding tools, right, they are generally using this thing called React. So later on, I'll go a bit deeper also. But if you are familiar with React, or at least if you know JavaScript, it actually helps quite a bit. So a lot of times you are thinking, a bit, I think usually at the start, you're like, wow, the website so nice and whatever. Then once you see errors, right, then you realize, you start to start judging, is this AI really giving you the correct answer and stuff? Yeah, but that's just one thing about using vibe coding that I'll explain a bit more later. Yeah, so websites. For mobile apps, right, I have friends that actually tried using vibe coding tools and really the very hardcore ones to kind of build mobile apps. The experience for now, they say it's still a bit clunky because I think a lot of all these mobile app kind of code, right, be it it's a bit either newer or it's like changing quite fast. So again, these are just some of the frameworks that I know. But I think for now, if anybody is interested to try mobile apps, right, my suggestion is try web first lah, because actually web is really an easier experience. At least you can kind of test all the functionality first. Mobile apps usually is a bit tricky, especially if you want to use use it in a certain situation, right? I'll explain a bit more later on when I mentioned about this thing called deployment. Okay. Then this last bit here I want to share. I unfortunately forgot what is CSS. I wanted to Google, but I forgot. Sorry, okay. Custoding something Starling.
You think of it as putting on clothing.
Oh no, as in I meant I forgot what the CS stands for. Style something, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So don't need to know the term. The more important thing, right, is that because think about like software engineering like solutions, right? All the things we see, right? There's already a lot of best practices for the past 30, 40 years. So a lot of actually, be it like what we call user experience designers or front-end engineers, they have already built a lot of, you can think of that as like templates. So now all the buttons should look like that. So there's these two frameworks that I use. It's called Tailwind CSS and Daisy UI. You don't need to know about them because, but it's more to kind of think of it as like, later on some of the prompts I'll share a bit more. But the general idea is that like if you want a certain style, you can actually tell your Gen AI tool, right, to say use this style. Like use Google Material, give me this. Or always ensure that you're using Tailwind CSS. Of course, you can go a bit more into research. If you have a particular kind of like, if let's say your company has a particular color scheme, style guide, font, it all can be included into the LM like when you're doing the vibe coding. So these are all some of the stuff that you can actually kind of consider. Yeah. So this is for front end. Then next. Okay. Actually, all this back end kind of stuff, right, is the part that I think most people are complaining that it's a bit more complicated. I think there's two levels. Firstly is, especially for non-technical people, right, a lot of this kind of stuff, what authentication, connect to back end, connect to database, and then connect to emails, connect to CRM, a lot of it could be a bit more abstract because we, as a consumer, right, we usually don't go and interface. Okay, I receive an email, but maybe you don't really realize it's a thing that's something that's called a CRM system that is doing all these connections, sending you information. So I think there's one level of like, it's a bit hard for us to kind of like, for non-technical people to kind of figure out, okay, what is the back end doing? That's one thing. Secondly is, I think it's really much easier because a lot of vibe coding, right, it's a bit more of an iteration. You're testing certain stuff. This button look nice or not? This thing, is it there or not? Is the positioning of my buttons are a bit weird or not? Whereas for back end, right, it's because it's so abstract, right? It's a bit hard for you to see, okay, now this code comes out, does it work? Like if I press this thing, do I get the email? How do I know is the email got sent but it got to my spam? Or did the email send to somebody else? Or something like that. So I feel that actually backend is the part that it's a bit more tricky for non-technical people who try to vibe code. And later I'll draw the connection. These are just some of the stuff that I know briefly. I know the most for Python. In fact, I actually did build a few websites using Python. Fast API is there, yes. Fast API. JavaScript is actually kind of like the de facto language for a lot of vibe coding platforms. So if you use anything, all the Bolt, Cursor, Claude, right, they are best at producing JavaScript code. And actually when you're talking about JavaScript, so that is like the raw syntax. But there's a lot of frameworks like React Native and whatever. That one again, we can go more into it if there's more questions later lah. But the general idea is that at the end of the day, even though vibe coding seems like magic, right, it still kind of produces normal language into something that is produced by technical people, but I don't need to go through all the technical training. And that is kind of like the magic when people are talking about vibe coding. Okay. Also like Golang, PHP, those are other languages. But I think one thing to take away from here is that when you're looking at vibe coding for backend, it is still strongest at producing backend using JavaScript. Okay, next slide. Okay, now this is the more complicated or the things that are a bit more technical. So when you think about some of the tech solutions that you have, right, again, because we are vibe coding like tech solutions, right, the first thing that usually I like to scare people is this thing called user authentication. The technical term I think is called OAuth. I think sounds very vulgar, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, but it's called OAuth. Yeah. So the general idea, right, is that imagine I have a technical solution like a product. I want to come in, right? I want to say, hey, I want to store, let's say, my calendar information. Or I want to store like my checklist, my itinerary for my travels, right? Like I want to log in, it's just my information. I don't care where Chris is going, right? I don't care where Paddy is going, right? I want to store my information. So this actually requires when I go to the platform, right? For the platform to know that, oh, this is Cliff. And then I have to like sign in. So nowadays, there's this like Google sign in and stuff, right? It's very easy user experience. In fact, it's a very good user experience. But to try to get it into the vibe coding environment, right, it can be a bit tricky. And because you think about it, right, I mentioned about front end, I mentioned about back end. Actually, I always like to tell people user authentication, right, is the connection of the back end to the front end. And vice versa, right, because somebody is pressing something on the front end, it pushes that information to the back end, then the back end go and confirms, oh, okay, this is really Cliff. And then he sends that information back to the front end, which is, okay, then I will see my itineraries, or I will see whatever I have stored. So I do know that there are a few, it's so complicated, right? There are companies that are built on just providing authentication services. Those will be a bit more expensive if you really want to consider. They do try to make the experience as easy as possible. So the one that I know that a lot of vibe coders use is from this service called Superbase. They are actually a database, a cloud database. And I'll explain more about databases later. But because they are storing information, they are also providing this connection to allow people to kind of use authentication services. Yeah. And it's actually quite a seamless experience from what I see people do. I myself am still trying to figure that part out. There's also more about costing and stuff like that. But this is just again a more broad-based concept kind of thing. Yeah, so that's user authentication. And then next, okay. And of course, databases. So the thing, right, is that in those very lean products, meaning products that you only want to store very basic information, right? You can actually store them in the device itself. I'll explain more again later as well. There's like local storage and stuff. But if you want to store information about, let's say, photos or Cliff's travel itinerary plan, I'm planning all the different links that I'm storing. Usually there will be this cloud database that we want to have, right? Because just store my itinerary is not a lot. But if you want to make it as a service, you want to like support hundreds and millions of people using the platform, right? You definitely cannot. Most probably you want to kind of store in some cloud database. Yeah. So there's quite a few. Again, the more preferred vibe coding databases that I know, right, is actually Superbase and MongoDB. But for that, again, not going to the technical parts of it. In fact, I'm trying to remember. I think Lovable has a direct connection to Superbase. And if I remember correctly, right, I think when Lovable came out, and they did a lot of connections in a very fluid way with Superbase, I think it did help Superbase like stock price or something. Something like that. Yeah. But yeah, as in that's what I know a lot of vibe coders actually use also. One of the easier ones if you all want to consider. Okay, next. Okay. So deployment. So this is the part that I would say maybe is the most scary one. Even more scary than user authentication, to be honest. But I think it's also the more exciting one because especially if you are building not just something for yourself, right? But it's like, hey, I want to share with my friend. Or even better, okay, this is my company web page. I want to share with other people. Or even you want to share a service that people want to like log in and then do payments, right? To pay you, right? This is a whole idea called deployment. There is actually this whole role called DevOps. Not as in DEATH, they're not dying. It's DEV, so development operations, DevOps. Yeah. So this is one whole role where they actually do a lot of ensuring that your platform, ensuring that your solution is available, ensuring that it's like the performance is very good and stuff like that. So there's actually a lot of, so it is such a complicated domain, right? That there's actually a lot of different tools and platforms out there. These are not vibe coding tools. These are just like normal tools. So I personally use, I don't know how to pronounce it, I think it's Netify. I personally use Netify. I also use GitHub Pages as well. I have tried Vercel, but Vercel is more JavaScript based. So I've never gone really full into Vercel. Google Cloud and AWS are what people use when they are a real developer because those, they have a lot of very complicated configurations because you can even set things like, say, if you know this concept, right, like you can set your DNS to be in like America, Singapore, Tokyo, so that it's very fast for the users there. And if you deal with Indonesia market, you have to have a certain thing that's there because Indonesia doesn't want the data to come out or something like that. So there's a lot more this kind of stuff. I would say that if you are interested, right, like can consider Netify. Later I will share more. I can even, if you have time, I can actually go through one whole my experience. Then I can share some of the stuff that I have. Yeah. One thing that you all also need to consider would be domain names. Basically, like if it's a website, right? Like okay, if it's my domain name, it will be like Cliff Chew, very handsome @.com or whatever. So something like that, right? But a lot of times when I'm using all these tools, right, they actually usually will have their own default name already. So I'm not, because usually you need to pay for domain names as well. For me, I'm just testing, playing around with technology. So I usually not too concerned about those stuff yet. But of course, if you're a business looking at already have a domain name, you also need to figure out how to ensure that domain name is being put so that people can just refer, oh, this is like Paddy Tan Corporation, whatever, right? It's always like, they don't know that it's a correct website. Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, so I'll be sharing a few of my vibe coding experiments. So you know no baking, right? They always do a lot of steps, then at the back bring out the cake already. So I have the cake here already. So let me show the cake here first. So okay, I don't know if it's too small. So for all the people like me, right, y'all cannot see, right? But I'm actually hosting this online. So again, I will share the link so y'all can click onto the link itself as well. So the first thing that I tried was actually doing this. Okay, I call it grocery app but basically it's I have a use case is that when I go to my wife to the supermarket, right? Real life story. I have a wife. Real life story. Although hard to believe I got a wife. Like she always tell me, hey, I want this. Then I was like, okay, I want to track to ensure that we don't go over the $10 CDC voucher. So I already said, right? They say, hey, remove this. Then, how? Then a lot of times, right, I always get confused. How much do we need to pay at the end of the day? So, being the very helpful husband that I am, so I create something like that. So I can add an item here. Just say banana, because bananas are in thing nowadays. That costs, I think, $1 nowadays. Then you can see that like the number changes here. I don't know. My wife take, I just key only. Really? Yeah, I don't know. So you can see here, right? I can add more stuff here. I don't know, like what drinks. Then maybe a drink cost $2? I don't know. I don't know. I just robot one. Whatever my wife say, I just see price, I just key in. Yeah. So you can see here, right? I think the first thing is that actually this, right, is just purely on front end. I have no back end. So if you all happen to be able to see the link, right? If you all go to this link, right, you all won't see the information that I'm showing here because this is only residing locally on my machine. And I can just rerun this. I can see it's refreshing. Can see it's still there because it's stored locally on my machine. In fact, if I use my own phone right now, right, it won't show this information. But because this thing that I need, right, only need once I leave the supermarket, we don't care already because once I claim my CDC voucher, done already. Yeah. So this is something that I tested, and again, purely on front end. I don't even know what technology was it behind.
Deciding in the browser cache, is it?
Yes. I think it's using local storage.
Local storage.
Yeah. So this is one thing, and because firstly I knew I didn't need to care about authentication. Y'all CC I also don't care. Y'all know that I don't know how banana costs, I also don't care. Yeah. So firstly I don't need to log in. It's only for a very short period of time. Once I'm done with the calculations, it's done. So my wife was like, why don't you use calculator? But calculator, when I key in, right, then you have like 4 or 5 things together already, right? When I want to remove the middle thing, it's a bit troublesome. So for this one, I can like even do this. I can like remove here, then add here again. Because my wife sometimes will have to change. She might change her mind. So I might click here, and she has the right to do that. Not that I'm saying she doesn't have. Yeah, so she can click here. So you can see the number here actually changes. Yeah. So sometimes she'll say, okay, add banana. Okay, don't add banana. Then, oh no, this one is the GST. Yeah. If but of course I can put it at 0 also. Yeah. So I can continue add stuff. Okay, I don't want to add anymore because I don't know what are things costing nowadays. Yeah. So again, right, like for me, right, I just wanted to test. And okay, the bad thing about my current environment, right, is that I'm using this thing called Gemini Web Builder. Later I can show. It doesn't store my prompts. So I also can't remember what I wrote already. But I definitely didn't one shot, like just one powerful prompt and then everything came out. I kind of like slowly prompted it out. But it was this is actually my first vibe coding experiment. Then I was like, okay, just testing how good it is, how fast it is and stuff. and I was very able to quickly deploy on Netify. And I was like, okay, it kind of works. Yeah. So this is the first thing, and like all these things, right? If you all think that okay, this thing doesn't look too ugly, right? It's totally because not designed by me one. I just told the Gemini, right? Then I let Gemini do something. Then I'll say, okay, maybe the button can make bigger. Can you like put this thing in the middle? Then I use a bit. Then when I tried it, maybe I prefer this thing to be show up like on top and stuff. So it's a very a very iterative experience. Oh, I think really is a Freudian slip. It's a very iterative experience. Yeah. And yeah, so this is like the first thing that I built. Again, I wanted something to just test how vibe coding is like. Again, I didn't use backend, whatever. But the first thing. Okay.
That's your react.
Sorry?
That's the react.
If
Yeah, which is very responsive.
I think I can. A bit small, cannot see.
No, I don't think you can see.
Yeah, I'm also not very sure, but never mind. I don't want to go too deep into this. Yeah, but again, so you can see, right, this is pure front end, no back end, no authentication. Very easy to do on byte coding platforms because byte codings are very, very good at that. In fact, some people might even call it just a prototype. But good enough for me, I solved my use case with my wife. I'm very happy. My CC vouchers all used very well. Never more than $1 above my CC voucher one. Yeah, very happy. I never tried it. I guess. I never set a limit.
Usually the free version, they limit you to certain number of characters.
I didn't set, so I didn't really know. Yeah. So there's actually a role called QA in companies. So quality assurance. They will test all these things. If you have a full app and you want to deploy, and then because when people pay, right, they will be more judgmental of a platform. So you can see, okay, at least I didn't really test. In fact, I also didn't go and test like how many items I can add. That wasn't really a consideration. But at least it kind of solved my own use case, and I felt it was like, not too bad. Yeah.
Craig, one question. So since you built this is literally public.
Yes.
So anybody can actually use it.
Yes, as long as you have the link.
Okay, then how about all the cost of hosting in terms of
So I'll go deeper. I can share more now. So I'm using this web service called Netify. So a lot of these you can call them hosting platforms, right? They actually have a certain level of freemium hours. So fortunately or unfortunately, I haven't gone beyond my hours because I think only I'm the one using. Yeah. So you can try to help me push me beyond my hours my free hours. But
do they cache it? Are you able to access this information?
only on this machine. Yeah.
Only on particular. So
Right.
in other words, let's say 20 of us go to the same link. Whatever that we enter, you don't have access to
I cannot see. Yes. Yeah.
Are you able to write a script to access it?
So for that, right, you need to actually depending on how we want to handle the authentication and how we're gonna handle. It'll be more towards like security and like accessibility So one situation would be that like let's say imagine if it's let's say like something like Google Docs. So I want everybody to be able to see everybody's one. So that one usually it'll be the easiest to build because it's just one database, one cloud database. But if you want something that's a bit more like, okay, only Paddy can see Paddy's one, I can only see my own one. Those kind, right, you need it to be, you need to have the some login. Because maybe I can just log in, maybe Paddy wants to use his mobile, then wants to use desktop, but it's still him. So we need to have a kind of a login flow, which is what I mentioned just now about the OAuth the flow. Yeah, so that is the more tricky situation. Yeah, but for a simple app like this, right, so technically it's functional for the use case because let's say if you all also want to have something to track whatever you all are spending before your CDC expires, right, you all can potentially use this also. Yeah. Okay. So this is the first one. The second one that okay, again, all these are all I'm just sharing with you my life I'm a very boring old guy. So again, I have another use case. So this one again, I have no to be fair, all my experience so far, I have not used any database yet, and I'm not using any authentication yet. So for this, right, again, it's just on device. And what I have, right, is that I have some kind of tracking to track whether my a lot of those fitness packages are expiring or not. So I'm on ClassPass, I'm on Yoga Movement, I'm on Revolution. These three things. And basically, it's just getting the front end. Again, these are all just front end calculations. So I am on point to do just once a week for Yoga Movement. I have another package. But the general idea here, right, is that just on front end itself, front end can do some of the calculations as well. And of course, right, again, you all will ask, if I go to this link, can you all see mine or not? cannot, because similar to the groceries app, right? I'm actually having this on my machine. Again, if I'm using it on my phone, actually I can't see this information. So again, for me, I was testing whether all these calculations would actually make sense or not. Like, can I calculate all this? And all this, to be honest, I never really go and verify. To be fair, if it's really an actual platform that you're selling for money, you might want to verify if this calculations of like average class per week, is it really sensible or not?
So you're actually using these few tools already?
Yes, correct.
So can you actually, because now you're showing it on the web, so can you actually turn it into mobile web?
Short answer is yes. But usually for technical perspective, right, I'll call it web app.
Yeah.
So I'm not building it as a app. So the experience would be that you would see it as though you can see it on a mobile phone, and it would still look quite nice, but it's still web based. Yeah, it's called responsive design.
Last question. You do yoga?
Yeah, of course. Of course. I'm very flexible, you know me? Yeah.
Very important.
Wow. As you can show what? As in, I got my yoga bag later. I don't know what you want me to show, you lor. Hey, you recorded anybody here? Yeah. Evidence already. Can. Yeah lor. So for this, okay, I even like wrote something very interesting for fun lah. Again, for me, I was testing how far I can push. Like if the vibe coding tool could understand, I want certain animation. Yeah. Of course, here, right, I had a bit of knowledge on like, okay, I need to create a GIF, I need to do certain things and whatever. So I actually vibe coded this out. But again, it's just like fun experiment. I think my wife was like, "What are you doing, yeah?" Then I was like, very happy, like I coded something. Yeah.
What's the data option?
Oh, well, that's a very sharp question actually. So I was actually experimenting because everything wasn't online. It's not cloud database, right? So I can actually export the data and then say I want to load it onto my other laptop, or load it on my mobile phone. It's just to see whether it's possible or not. So I could actually download the information as a format that's called JSON. So this format is just more computer readable lah. Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that. Yeah. So just experimenting a bit because I didn't have the time to go too deep into exploring cloud databases and like signing in and stuff like that. Yeah.
Everything is in JSON format.
Yes. Yeah. And because actually for this, it's only just characters, just numbers and text, right? So actually it's not very computationally intensive also. It's actually quite the computer's actually quite smart lah.
So the animation is in GIF?
Yes. I was quite surprised like I was like, oh, can really create. Then when I showed my wife was like, huh? Like that also you so happy, yeah. But she didn't know how much effort I put in to create a GIF.
A bicycle that turns the wheels up.
Yeah.
What about the plus sign on the right?
Which one? Oh, this one. What is it? I forgot already. Oh, this is air package.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's still when I have so for me here, right, I had a very strong worry, right, that again, cheapo guy. I have a very strong worry that when I buy a package, I don't have enough time to finish the package and the package expires. So I'm giving myself, now I need to do a lot more spin classes before it expires. I'm on track to only need to do once a week for yoga. I have class pass as well that expires on the 12th of every month. So I'm tracking my fitness very diligently.
We must suggest you add one more something called bankruptcy.
What? It's okay. Oh, actually, this one I do it in another layer, but the layer has all my net worth, so I cannot show you all. Yeah, so this first tool, right, like I was experimenting just what I call like user input information. I key in itself and whatever. And I think if you are starting out in vibe coding, I think these kind of experiments, right, would kind of give you guys a bit of confidence and kind of understand, so this is how you can think about the solutioning. Of course, if you are very ambitious, right, you might suddenly say, how come I cannot log in? How come like when I do this, right, my friend cannot see? Then of course you know that actually your solution might need to go like into more technical kind of like situations really lah. Yeah. So I will not take too much time on this. This last part here, again, this is the second last experiment that I will show you all lah. Somebody might ask, I can see this kind of like forex tracker on Yahoo. Why do I care? So for this, right, I experimented with something different. I'm not sure if you are familiar with this thing called APIs. So basically, it's like somebody will be providing this kind of information. I can programmatically get those information. So that's a simplified way lah. So you can see the first two, right? I was keying in information. This one, right? I didn't need to key in anything other than keying. Let's say I want to see I can add like new currencies to track and whatever. So basically, every time I open this page, right, it will actually make the API calls to this free service, and then I can see the information here. So this is one other way. Then I said, oh, okay. And for me, right, because I came in, again, like I said, I came in with an existential crisis. So I'm seeing, okay, this thing work. Then like what's next? Of course, again, unfortunately, I couldn't reach the stage of like connecting with like databases before our session here. But at least for me, my objective is to iteratively figure out, okay, what AI is good. How much time do I need to take to get AI to do this thing for me? Yeah. So for this, right, again, it's some experimentation. And because, again, I haven't done any of the back-end kind of stuff, this is all just, again, front-end. So for people who know what they're doing, right, actually this maybe shouldn't take too long as well. I actually took very long to figure out, was there any free APIs? Because, yeah, the iFast would know lah. All these currency APIs, they are not cheap to call. Yeah, not cheap to call. So, again, this one, I'm not making any financial decisions with all this information. It's for me to figure out, oh, okay, so APIs work. And I didn't need a database if I just need to show information. So imagine, let's say you have things, let's say weather information, can call it the NEA's information. Dengue, hotspots, what else? I don't know.
Pull data like from data.gov.
Oh, I actually, not for this one. That one is another talk already. I got some other analysis. That's more analysis focused on. I did it for Data Science SG.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, one question. It's interesting that you can actually put APIs in, but can you actually put notifications and then link back to like push notifications or something like that?
Oh, so for this, right, I haven't hit the experimentation yet, but what I read is that I understand it can be done even on the web. Even on the web, yeah. It's definitely a bit more advanced, but it's definitely possible from what I understand. Yeah.
So this is live now?
I can't say, I don't think it's live. Yeah, so means that, yeah, I have to refresh it, yeah. But caveat is that I think because it's a free service, right, it also only updates once a day only. Yeah.
I anyway type up will rise on Monday.
Really?
Yeah, they got a new prime minister.
Because Paddy say, right? Because Paddy say. Okay, we'll all come back on Monday and see.
Much time you spend to prepare?
Okay. So for this, right, I think I spent no more than 2-3 hours. Yeah. And in fact, right, and out of those 2-3 hours, right, I think I spent more than 50% of the time finding a free API. Yeah, because when you know about like Google search, right, all the ones that pop up first, right, are those that are sponsored. Means that they want you to pay. Means that means that they are paying for ads. And we are paying for ads means that they want you to pay because that's how they earn, right? So it took me a while to figure. But actually, once I knew what API it was, and it didn't require a lot of it didn't have a lot of restrictions. But of course, it's not the best, right? It's not like the most updated and stuff. I could actually quickly experiment with it. Yeah. So again, right, also thinking about vibe coding project, right? Of course, if you're thinking of it as, let's say, a service, if there's something that maybe is not as accurate, but it's something that you want to test, you can test on the technology. But imagine I have something like this. Let's say it's not, maybe something about like property prices or something, and I think that I could sell. Then you could actually potentially share this prototype to somebody else and then ask them about their views about it. Whether does it look nice, or is it, would they pay for it, or would they pay for it? As in, they will pay for it only if it's real time or something like that. So this is where people say that vibe coding is maybe better for prototyping. And I think that this is this is definitely the most viable route in terms of the current tooling. I think definitely still can use it for really building like real solutions, but I'll go deeper into that later because that one really requires a lot more technical aspects. Yeah. Okay. This one. Then the last bit here, you can see already very happy to show my error. I don't know why the picture didn't show up today. Yeah. But I also like vibe coded like a own personal profile kind of like all my projects. And this was actually more focused on the styling. So people who know me know that I'm actually more of a Muji minimalist fan. But I purposely chose a theme that I wasn't familiar with. So I chose cyberpunk. And I purposely, because if I was able to like use the template that I like, right? Then I prompt it, right? It shows that I'm good at like doing the styling ma. But I wanted to test how good like vibe coding is in terms of its style when I don't know how to appreciate that style. So I purposely chose cyberpunk. And in fact, it was not bad. Like when I click here, the colors would change and stuff. These are real projects, although I don't have a lot of projects. But I felt that it was quite interesting where it gave me a very like good experience other than I don't know where the photo is gone. Yeah. So I can click, then see it goes to my, I got so many things now. My LinkedIn. Yeah. So again, all this is just pure front end, no back end. Everything I had to actually code. Not code, but I actually prompt it into the AI tool. And of course, this is because I also knew quite a bit of front end stuff. So I knew like, okay, I need to put the link here, I need to put the ref, I need to put whatever. And the most interesting thing is that actually all these images, right, for people who know, you all might be thinking that, oh, I actually had to copy and paste all this by myself, is it? Short answer is no. I actually told like the LM, I said, okay, I did the prompt lah, but I told the AI tool, right, I said, hey, it's very troublesome to copy and paste everything manually. Do you have a way to do it automatically or not? Then I didn't know, I'll just ask you a question. Then he said, got. Then he figured a way for me. Then I said, wow, can now. Then I was quite surprised. Yeah. So it's like I didn't even know that this tool or function existed. And of course, again, you all should know by now, my first premise is it has to be free. And it was free. Then I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't need to manually copy and paste all these images there to show it as a thumbnail. It was automatically generated based on what my web page was showing. Yeah. So you can see I'm just like exploring and then again figuring out like how fast and how good like all these tools are.
And you mentioned it's called cyberpunk.
Yeah, the design. yeah.
What exactly? What is the platform?
Oh, so it's actually the style that I was going for. Yeah. So it's like cyberpunk. Punk. So cyberpunk is a style. I don't know how to say it. Yeah. Those kind of like the futuristic, very dystopian, neon lights, then very dark, like this lah. Yeah.
So question, let's say whatever that you have done, let's say somehow for example, let's say the top right corner images that you want to change. So how do you do it? Since the image was actually generated, do you go to the specific line?
Oh.
Or you do a prompt to just specify?
So for this, right, you maybe later I can show an example. I don't know the example now. But for at least the vibe coding tool that I use, right, it actually has two panels. The first panel is all the code. Okay, actually to be fair, it's three panels lah. The first panel is what you type inside. Then there's another panel that is the code itself. Then the last panel is the preview.
So you're using which tools?
I'm actually using Gemini.
You're using Gemini.
Free, yes, free and no limitations on tokens. So that's why sometimes I will forget that actually I'm like coding whole night already. Okay, prompting whole night. Sorry, not coding whole night. Prompting whole night because a lot of the tools, the more advanced tools. But to be fair, Gemini isn't the strongest, I would say, especially for backend. It really sucks. I think I even asked. I think Gemini himself confessed that they are not a backend tool. Yeah, I think I got him to be like to give up on me also.
There's no full version.
Yeah, actually, for if you're talking about a full solutioning, right, there are definitely other better tools. Yeah, I'm also starting to explore those lah. But yeah, because those usually have more limitations. I was experimenting with if I could use Gemini for front end prototyping, and then something else for back end. But I'm still experimenting on the back. Claude, as in Claude actually is the two very strong ones are actually Claude and Cursor. So these two are the ones that actually a lot of developers use because. Oh yeah, actually I know about Claude Code. Yeah, about Claude Code. Yeah. Because actually a lot of them. Once you want to do actual coding, right, or actually want it to produce code that is what we call production ready, usually those, right, you can't run away from paying some subscription, because So I'm also trying to find that balance where is it able to produce stuff that that doesn't need a person to know enough, like doesn't need to know a lot of coding, but it can still produce something that I can connect to back end, connect to like stuff. So far, some of my friends do seem to be able to do that. Mm.
migrate over to my website
Mm.
the HTML.
Yeah. So I think those are the usually the most direct use cases also. Yeah. But because those are more front end, right? I guess like the HTMLs or whatever. Yeah. It's the tricky part when you're trying to connect some logic with the back end. Yeah.
Gemini, are you using AI Studio or just Gemini?
AI Studio. Yeah. I actually was using the Gemini API also, but it was a bit painful to use the API. Yeah. Okay, let me go back to here. Okay, I still have a few more slides. Okay, so those are all my experiments. I still do want to do more experiments, but especially with the back end kind of stuff. Okay, so some of the more. Should I stand up? Okay, I can sit down already. I just realized the camera. Okay, I can sit down already. So I'll be sharing. Okay, I skip this slide. So some vibe coding ideas, just to get you to think about how you can look at like the whole vibe coding project, right? So I've listed quite a few tools here. I think one thing that I like the most, right, especially sometimes when I'm a bit stuck in my own ideas, right, is to actually, because I think everybody knows ChatGPT. That's the thing that started Gen AI, this whole hype, right? So a lot of time, there are times, right, where actually I will not use Gemini first. I will talk to ChatGPT to kind of like discuss, hey, I have this thing here, or hey, I want to do something and I want Gemini to produce the front end for me. How would you prompt it? Yeah. So a lot of times, right, we don't need to fixate on having to use just one tool. Of course, I think ChatGPT, not only because it's very universal, very accessible, I think more importantly, it is quite generous in terms of its free tier and stuff. It's always evolving as well. So I think sometimes when you see certain new versions come out, then people start complaining, right? It's because some of the things they did and kind of screw up certain things. So I feel that don't need to, of course, which is one of the reasons why once you have a subscription, right, you might be more fixed to like one tool. But I feel that like, at least for me, I'm just still exploring, and I feel that being open to multiple Gen AI tools, I think that usually would be a good start to think about. I won't go too deep into those, but Cursor, Claude, okay, these are the more other tools that I myself want to explore as well. I've been using just mainly Gemini. WebSim is one that I don't really see people talk about. WebSim, actually, to be honest, when I first saw it, right, it was actually introduced to me by a full stack developer friend. Because we were exploring some project together. When I first saw it, I thought he sent me the wrong link because it looked very dodgy. But it's actually quite interesting because it's again also focused fully on prototyping. It has some interesting features, and I think a lot of times, a lot of these tools, right, they will kind of like copy each other or learn from each other. So eventually, some of the things that I realized that WebSim already have, I realized Gemini also have already. Yeah. So some of it is just like conceptually, you just need to know, okay, maybe this thing is like the best in class now. Other tools might want to catch up. So these are some of the tools here. I think some of y'all already start looking at all these already also. So I won't go too deep into this one. In fact, I think all. I think other than WebSim, I think all these have payment models. Yeah. But usually, as in, if you ask ChatGPT, they will all say, all these like the free model only gets you a certain flavor of the tool. Eventually, if you want to get anything production ready, right, to push it as a service or whatever, you most probably still need to pay for some service. Unless you're okay to just prompt five times a day, then wait for a month to get the, like 30, possible also to be fair. Yeah.
It gives you better work-life balance.
Yeah. Because you might have lost your job, right? by the second week, your boss is waiting for your app.
I mean, I was told the best way is do your prompting in ChatGPT and all those tools, refine it, then finally whatever you want, copy over to the platform.
Yeah.
So that with that 5 times a day, like blah, 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 it's more than something.
Correct. Yeah. So some people really refine their prompt, and then they hope that like their final output, right, the final prompt, right, actually covers a lot of angles already. Yeah. So that's this one. So consider multiple Gen AI tools as one. I do feel that like again, depending on your use case, I think use case, comfort level, it's good to know. Okay, CS stands for computer science. I forgot to put the full name. Yeah. So it's always good to know at least some basic concepts, which is why at the start I wanted to share the basic concepts, because I feel that the tooling will change, hopefully for the better. Maybe, and I hope that's a good thing because maybe in the future nobody have jobs already, all AI do already. But the tooling definitely will change, will improve. So there's these two concepts that people always argue about. It's, should I be prompting for like the solution that I want or the problem that I want to solve, or should I be prompting for features? I don't have a definite answer, to be honest. I actually do try to dabble around. My approach, because I'm using a free one, right, Gemini, right, I always start with the large framework first. I want a grocery app that does this. And then when it comes out, right, they say, ooh, it's so ugly. Can you change this here? Can you change this there? But of course, again, because I'm using a free tool, so I have a lot more iterations with it. Yeah. So these are some of the so these two are the considerations of the two broad frameworks. A lot of times, I think it is the engineers that prefer to prompt by feature, because they know the feature specifically. They can even say things like, hey, I want this button to do this, or add that ref tag, or do certain things, use two-factor authentication to do this instead. They know what they're doing, because and usually they stand by that kind of approach. But because they know how to fact-check their own work.
So like just now your grocery app, right? Can I just copy the URL and like
It doesn't work. It's not like.
no like okay then tell them that referring to this URL, give me the prompts I need to create.
So this one is a bit similar to what you're talking about, like the first suggestion, right? Depending on the tool, there are some tools, right, that actually allow you to upload images. It's actually, I think, my third or fourth suggestion. So you can actually, so imagine, let's say, even if you have a very sketchy wireframe, like you all draw out, be it using PowerPoint slides or your hand draw.
I just want like something like whatever
So,
you have there, I just
to be honest, I'm not sure if you give the link, it will help. But I'm quite confident if you give the screenshot, it should at least give you the basic user interface. It might not fully understand, maybe this button I press, what will happen. So you might have to prompt that kind of feature in. But yeah, you should be able to at least get the visual out of it. The more advanced tools that I didn't cover, right, is this thing called AI agents. So AI agents are quite a beast. I myself haven't really gone too deep into that, because AI agents, even the setting up of AI agents, right, is quite a nightmare. Yes, correct. So a lot. So the thing, right, is that agents will be a different talk already. That one need another day already. and I need 2 more months to figure out. Yeah. But agents, right, is basically not just, so now we are just producing code. But agents, right, can actually execute stuff for you. But because it's executing stuff, right, depending on how the execution is done, you might have to give the agents, right, more access to your own systems. Yeah. So I have friends who like really give like access to their emails, to their executions and stuff. It's basically the stuff that is like what hackers want, basically. They want to capture all stuff. So it's actually quite scary. But for developers who know what they're doing, they know what bugs to catch, they are very confident, because they can really just run, and then even for me as a data analyst, right, it can even potentially produce out the output that I want. And then with the output, ask it to say, send emails to these top 10 users who spend the most and they have achieved some voucher or something.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
but okay, then for the best way is to show them a picture, the vibe coding.
I would say if you want to achieve similar aesthetics, that might be the easiest way to at least give a good start. Yeah.
But they can't copy the features based
Actually, vibe coding is already very simple. Because otherwise, the simplest, easiest one is you give them the link, then get the prompt with the link, and then ask them to go and copy, rip off.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah. So I think some can, but some cannot. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. I do think that for mine, because mine is quite simple, there's a chance that it should be able to. But I can't promise because I don't know how many layers they go. So you think of it as like, okay, they go to the first homepage, but would they click on any buttons? Because I'm not sure if they know the functionalities or not. So so for that, I haven't experimented until that level yet also. Yeah.
Maybe that will be your homework.
Yeah, but I think these are actually like good things to think about also. Like, okay, how far it can go. The scary thing is that sometimes a lot of things that you thought couldn't, like even you try, right, it didn't work. Like today, maybe 2 months later, a new version of ChatGPT can already. Yeah. So I'm also figuring out like where the frontier is, and it's actually both scary and exciting for somebody in tech. Because really, maybe tomorrow I'm no more job already. AI gonna do all my job already.
tried getting AI to crawl some website, etc. But I think a lot of websites have this robot protection.
Yeah.
So actually, it will just tell you, I cannot crawl this, but this is based on what I understand of this line and this logic.
It's the same because you can always set, because it's a web standard. Right? So you can say that you don't allow crawling. Right? That means prevent people from tracking.
Yeah, I think that will be more common in the future.
So, I know, okay, but again, these are more developers lah. So, I know of people who, rather than getting like ChatGPT or whatever to crawl, right, they get ChatGPT to build them the crawler. Yeah. So then they run the crawler themselves. Yeah. But of course, you need to have.
So that bypasses the.
Yeah, because basically the crawler is you are the tool, like because basically ChatGPT.
It's a bit like web scripting.
Yeah. So, but of course, at that level, right, you need to be able to appreciate, like, okay, what, how does it navigate the page? And in fact, as a data analyst, the most common thing that I do is to detect whether this is the traffic that I get, right? Is it from a bot or is it from a real person? And the sad truth is that nowadays, because we have at least 6 or 5 like Gen AI platforms, right? And you know how they build a model? They scrape the whole internet and then pump to the model and then they train. So basically, everybody is subjected to crawling to a certain extent. And everybody is trying to figure out, okay, I have, let's say, 5,000 web pages viewed today. Are they really bots or are they really real people? It's literally what I'm doing this afternoon only. Yeah. So it's a very interesting world, I guess. But yeah, there's another whole area of like the ethics and then like what you can and cannot do. Because I know a lot of these kind of Gen AI platforms, right? They also, at least they have some gray area, and some countries are suing some of these companies for web scraping, especially the European sites, right? They are all quite into all these kind of like stuff.
I know with reference to your previous slide, right?
Yes.
So you mentioned about you don't know which is better, like ask for the problems, to ask for help for the issues, or to ask for help for the features. So you know whether is it okay if we ask for help for all 3 at the same time? Like, is it definitely is there a downside to asking for all 3 at the same time? Like, are you sure whether would that be helpful, or is it like definitely not helpful?
So I think I go back to just now the example that I had about the problem that I face. I had a lot of side projects. I don't want to manually go and screenshot every image. So for that situation, right, because I didn't even know whether such a feature existed or not. Right? I didn't know whether I could actually automatically get my thumbnails like captured. So I literally just asked, like, hey, I need this. So it's actually more of a needs. Like, hey, I got this situation. Is it possible to help me solve this? But of course, if you are very comfortable with a lot of like CS concepts, right? Like you even know you know things like, hey, I need this security patch to be done, and I need it to be done with a 2-factor authentication, whatever. And because you know what you want to do, right? I think that one, right, it allows you to ensure that your output, right, is within your constraints, within your safeguards. Because especially if you're building something that's more like for somebody, like say a client, or you're doing as a service, right? You want to be sure that you are not, like, let's say, leaking data, or that your function really is achieving what you want it to achieve. Of course, again, I'm doing very simple kind of like toy experiments, right? So it's what's come to worst is just, I don't have my thing done properly only. But in a larger situation, yeah, you might have to consider a lot more this kind of stuff. I would say that can try both. And see what works, because sometimes really it also depends on the tool, like, because there's so many different kind of like platforms, right? So I think do experiment and see what gets you, because sometimes also it's that maybe the platform actually it could be that the platform actually is okay with prompting for needs, but maybe I need to be sharper with my needs. I cannot say, can you give me a platform that allows people to add images? But it's like, add images can be so many variety of images. Or like, give me a platform that allows people to add information. Then it's like, do you mean add documents? Do you mean add like voice or whatever? So yeah, so there's always a bit of experimentation. Okay, so this one also, I mentioned quite a bit just now already about like the images and stuff. I think I never really tried it myself because I've seen people that say that, wow, I can replicate like Instagram within like 4-5 prompts. I've seen people say that, but I've never needed another Instagram. We have more than enough Instagrams in the world. So I don't know why people want to do that, but yeah. So, but I've seen people like say that, and usually I think if it's not too complicated a platform, it can be a good start. Especially, let's say, for the very standard kind of stuff, let's say like a company landing page. or some kind of thing that is a very standardized one. I suddenly can't think of anything else really. Yeah. So and of course, even better if you have the image or the mockup, it can at least give you the aesthetics. Maybe some of the functionality, if it's more complicated, you might have to write it in greater detail. And actually, it does help if you know a bit more technical terms like what is a drop-down menu, what is a expandable tab, like all this kind of stuff. Of course, if you prompt it in English, it might still work. But if you know the specific terminology, right, like it will definitely help a bit. Yeah. And then this one, yeah, sometimes, to be honest, when I wrote this, right, I think sometimes it's not for the computer, it's more for yourself. Like if you are trying very hard and it doesn't work, right, sometimes it's better to just like take a step back. Like start afresh is your own brain rather than the AI stuff. But I've seen people give this suggestion as well, which is that sometimes if like you wanted to prompt, let's say you are prompting by needs, right? Say, okay, I want this grocery ad, whatever, and the output really isn't what you want, right? It might make more sense to actually say, okay, I learned that this prompt sucks. Maybe I start again, new prompt, rather than trying to fix the prompt that is already going very array already. Yeah. Yeah. So this is something that I usually would think about sometimes, like how much more do I commit to this path, or maybe I should just start again. And I've done it quite a few times. But if you feel that sometimes it's in the correct direction, but for some reason it's like cycling around something that's a bit wrong, these are some of the prompts that I actually quite like to use. So, and in fact, the first one I like to use it quite a bit. Remove unnecessary code while keeping all functions intact. Because if you think about it, right, a lot of these Gen AI tools, right, the more text, the more code that there is there, there's a higher chance that there'll be errors. It's like the more you do, the more wrong you can get. So if you ask it to strip down certain unnecessary stuff, right, it might actually help with the performance in terms of the output that it's giving. So I think that's one. The other thing also is to ask it to focus on performance, because sometimes for those that know programming, right, it's actually a lot of ways to do the same thing. And there's inefficient ways, there's delicate, beautiful ways, there's like bad ways and stuff. So sometimes I will not ask the AI, right, to give me new features, like, okay, add this thing now. I'll ask it to say, take a step back, and just like see, is there anything you can remove or not? Anything you can optimize or not? Yeah.
Try this and then you screw up your...
Oh, yes. It happened before. So nowadays, right, I usually would try to emphasize, do not change any functionality. Yeah. And make sure everything works. Yeah. So, so beyond just saying like improve the site, right? Like to be more specific, I will just say focus on just this section or that section. Yeah. So just, like for example, let's say just now by that Forex thing, right? I'll ask it to just say, just do edits on the chart itself. Don't change anything on the input output part really, because that part I think is okay. And there are for certain projects that became like because actually I haven't showed the code yet, but there'll be projects where there's a lot of different JavaScript files. I'll ask it to only focus on one particular file, because I know that file covers the styles, or another file covers more of the functionalities of the first page or second page. But of course, it means that I roughly know how the code is performing. And this one again goes back to the idea that it's always good to know a bit of CS concepts. Then actually there's one thing that I forgot to add that I think you guys can consider. I think it's two. One is I'll ask it to use best-in-class UI practices. So that's one. The other one is best-in-class SEO practices. But I realized I never need any good SEO because nobody will search my stuff. Yeah, but basically best-in-class or something. I always ask it to, and sometimes I will ask it a few times. And I will challenge it and say that, is this the best? Can you do better? I will really talk to it like a junior developer. Of course, the caveat is that I'm using a free tool that has no limitations on my tokens. Yeah. So that is for my friends who are real engineers who are using they only have maybe 50 prompts a day or something, right? They really is really sniper one. One shot I must build the thing that I need. And they really hone and sharpen their stuff outside and then detail thinking, before they actually launch that bullet into the system. Yeah. So start afresh. This. Yeah, then last bit here, I want to cover a bit of limitations. This is the scary part also, because limitations, after I go out already, maybe tomorrow no more already. Yeah. So remember just now the screen that was black color, right? That YouTuber, that influencer, he was actually covering this topic. This is actually on Reddit. So what's the point of vibe coding? if it's a bit small, right, the TLDR is that somebody is complaining, after I write code so much, I still need to get a developer to help fix my code. What? And his stand is that like, he's a bit more like asking now, like, is it a skill issue on me? Am I prompting lousily? How come up to a certain stage, right, I still need to get a real developer to help me solve my problem before I can push it into production and sell it as a service? So I would say that so far, at least the people that I see that succeed in using vibe coding, right, are unfortunately the engineers who know what they're doing. And then basically it's like, I used to have a axe, now I have a chainsaw, and I can chop a lot more trees. But if you don't know how to chop a tree, giving you a chainsaw, you might chop your own leg. Yeah. So as in like, so to me, right, like it's really quite interesting because the tool is powerful, but if you don't know how to use it, right, it can be very dangerous. Yeah, you could, and I have seen people who like, there's actually another viral story where somebody was like very proud that he built this platform and he was sharing it with the world. And he's like, he did it within don't know how many hours, right? And then his next tweet was like, people are attacking me now. People are like doing a lot of like stuff on his platform. He don't know what. Then he's losing a lot of money because of whatever stuff. Yeah. So I think it's a good thing to know about what is happening in the technology kind of sense lah. But I think that it's also important to figure out like what is the purpose of the vibe coding. Like for me, at least for now, it's still experimenting, figuring out will my job be replaced by AI, and then just sharing what I've learned. And I think a lot of times, yeah, once you hit the stage where, hey, how come my user complaining they can log in? How come my user say he paid me already, I didn't get my Stripe payment? Like all this kind of stuff, right? You will become the engineer that is dealing with all this. Then you might say, hey, I might just get some engineer from Vietnam or get some engineer from Taiwan. I cannot take it already. Then you might hit this stage lah. Yeah. Of course, again, if it's just something, if it's a tool for yourself, like me and my wife, we go grocery happily using my app. I think it's also fine also. But once you hit a certain level, right, like a lot more responsibility and a lot more considerations. Of course, there are many angles of solving it. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, as long as you are producing code, right, be it you want to add new features, be it you want to fix existing issues, once you hit a certain level, it will really be quite hard. That so far, that's the experience that I see. And so far, yeah, it's still more my developer friends who are able to kind of use those vibe coding tools to a more sustainable level. I would say.
I think it's still quite viable, right? Because even though, at least if you are doing vibe coding, you can probably play quite a lot. I mean, for me, I'd rather play a lot. Exactly what I want, then get a developer to.
Yes.
So there's still quite a lot of security stuff.
Correct.
Coding doesn't.
Correct. So one thing that I see, something that is very interesting also, right, is that but this is more how tech companies work. And I like to think from a first principle perspective. At the end of the day, nobody cares what code I write. People care about the service I provide. People care, are they reading content that is delightful? Are they getting the grab right that's coming? The solutioning is just part of the process only. So a lot of times, right, how things are being produced, right, is also kind of like, and think about it, right, all this kind of stuff, it's not like since ancient time, right, it's all evolving. So what I'm leading to, right, is that in the past, like last year, like people were saying the designer designed on Figma, then show the engineer, now engineer, this is a very nice one, follow this. But there are a lot of people that are thinking, maybe designers can go and learn vibe coding. Because at the end of the day, is to let the engineer know how this thing should look like. What things should be a button, what things should show certain things. And if the vibe coding tool can work, and they can make all these connections even clearer, right? Maybe it's even a better tool than just putting it on Figma or just drawing out the thing. So why am I saying this, right, is that I feel a lot of times, right, I personally have seen cases where people try to get engineers from just engineering like part-time basis. And then they were telling the engineers, okay, I want this. Then the engineer say, okay, can. But when it's produced out, totally different. Because the engineer, you want this? Then I say, no, as in, I want this, but not in this state. So a lot of times, right, vibe coding could be that bridge. Of course, a lot of functionalities, maybe you still need a developer. But if you can at least show, okay, I want this, but can you also add this sign-in thing that I couldn't do? Or this thing, I want it, right, but I want it to be able to share with other people. Or I want this to be able to be on cloud and stuff. So at least you will be able to communicate better with the technical people. And I feel that, of course, not everybody needs to be a developer, but at least knowing a bit more, right, I think it can help be it your organization or your own solopreneur journey or whatever, right? Like help to reduce a bit more of the mistakes or the hiccups that might happen because you are more familiar with what are possible things. And then if you can share a prototype, it's much easier for any developer that you're working with because they know this thing is ready. I click here, this thing will appear.
You haven't implemented the authentication part.
Haven't yet. So far, when I saw online, they say that the best is using Superbase. Yeah, the connection. That's usually the easiest. Yeah. So some of the things here. I want to emphasize a lot is actually like the tools are really changing very fast. In fact, when I was speaking to Christopher about having this session, right, the user interface of Gemini looks very different now. like it actually changed. So that's like, wow, okay, never mind. It's still within reasonable range. So that's again, I think if you are in tech, right, you know that actually change is actually quite exciting. But for people who are not so comfortable with change, right, it might be a bit jarring. Say, hey, I just spent like $2,000, paid some cost, suddenly everything changed, then wow, how's yeah. So it can be, I think, you have to have that kind of like healthy mindset that change is good. And if you don't think that change is good, then no choice because change will happen eventually. Yeah. So I think having some sensitivities to technical skills, I think is important. Don't need to know fully what is like how to implement two-factor authentication, but at least know that it exists and know what is it for, and then for what case maybe I don't need that. Yeah. And when your engineers talk to you about this, you won't feel like the engineers say what I just listened. Okay. Yeah, this one. I think I'm at my last slide already. So any more questions? I think we had a lot of questions.